Hello. If you're just stumbling onto this and we haven't met yet, I'm Bree. I'm a nurse practitioner, and this is a get ready with me while we just chit chat while I'm putting on makeup and getting ready for my night shift. Today, I do have topics so that in case there's nobody that shows up and I'm just monologuing, there's something to talk about. If you are jumping on, please feel free to ask a question. I'm happy to share. Pretty much an open book. But the topics for today are going to be: when should you start applying for your first NP job? If you're a new grad, and this is kind of who I'm speaking to in this group, and then also boards prep strategy. It's kind of like two subjects I did blogs on recently combined into one because I missed a couple weeks here. I'm so sorry about that. Let me just say things have been off in my world, so I apologize. I had to cancel last week because I totally forgot I was on day shift. So I was on days. And this week I had to push it back. So I don't know how many people will show up. Most people are used to coming at 3, and I had to push it back to 5 because I have good news, y'all. I have been waiting for 4 months to get in to see this new dermatologist. That's how far out in advance they book. I finally had my appointment today, so I could not reschedule that. Hello, Mr. Midwife. I'm so glad you made it. Sorry for the time change. I'm glad you were available, though. I was just saying that I got back from the dermatologist and I thought I'd do a little like influencer unboxing because she gave me free samples. So, I mean, you guys all know that I have rosacea. It's pretty bad. It started during COVID. And at first I thought like it was shingles. This is how you can get totally blind to things. Like you have all this knowledge, and yet when you apply it to yourself, you cannot see the forest for the trees. It started during COVID. I had this like row of like red bumps that came down here. It looked just like shingles. It follows a dermatome. I was like, it's got to be shingles, but it doesn't really hurt. Maybe you have a high pain tolerance. Maybe some shingles doesn't hurt. I don't know. I had myself convinced for, quite a while I had shingles. Then a friend told me it was rosacea, and I called her a liar. And my dermatologist at the time said, no, she was right. It's rosacea. So anyways, I've been battling that since COVID. And while I love the dermatologist I've been with her for many, many years, she didn't have a lot to offer. Hello, this is my youngest, Molly. Say hello to the peoples. Mr. Midwife is here. I'm not sure who else is here. We have 6 other people here. But this will be saved for feedback. So you doing okay?
What time are you going to work?
As soon as this is over. Can I get back with you in just a little bit about some of that stuff? Molly, so I usually record while Molly's still in school. So Molly is home from school. She wants to be a part of the show, I think. We are talking about when to study for boards, which is a big test new nurse practitioners have to take. It's really bad. It's 4 hours of torture, and you have to study for weeks and weeks. And we're also talking about when you should start applying for jobs. What are your thoughts on that?
You have to have a doctorate degree to think about that.
I don't know. A lot of people do. All right. Molly's going to say bye. Thanks for joining us, Molly. My daughter hurt herself a few months ago. I freaked out not knowing what she got called. Nurse Scott. That's what I would do, call an ER nurse. How old's your daughter? I'm hot. I'm going to have to take this thing off. Molly is in 6th grade, which is a delightful age. Delightful age for anyone who has daughters. 9, yes. 9 is, things are still pretty good at 9. It's before they get into middle school. But I have 3 daughters, so this is the 3rd time I've gone through this. So I kind of know what I'm getting. The hormones are a lot. Yes, he's great. Scott is great. Hopefully I turned on feedback. God, I can never remember. I think I turned on the chat feedback. So if you're watching this not in real time, hopefully be able to see this. If not, I will do a play-by-play so you see what people are saying. Okay. So the unboxing. So I got this little bag of goodies. She gave me a ton of prescriptions. And one thing she said, which really alternately made me angry and also made me realize that I need to stop being a child about things. Because while you know things cerebrally, particularly as a professional, science-minded professional, your heart doesn't quite know that or want to accept that. And she did tell me that rosacea is for life. It's for life. It's never going to go away. Oh, thank you so much. So she gave me a bunch of prescriptions. And then she gave me this little baggie, which I haven't opened yet. And the first thing she gave me was Cetaphil. Okay, I already have this. So that's great. That's great. I use that. I use one similar to that. That's good for like gentle skin. What else is in here? Oh, in case you needed this. In case you need to know what rosacea is. Yeah, I don't want that either. I already know it's horrible. She gave me another, okay, this is a Cetaphil lotion. Okay, dermatologists love their Cetaphil. And this is new. What is this? Okay, this one might be interesting. Plexion. Anybody know what that is? Plexion lotion. It's got something in it. I don't know what it is. I don't know. She prescribed me these washes to use or whatnot. It's going to be while they come in. Whatever. Stay tuned. Maybe when you show up for these things, my fresh face won't be like this. You bought it, you paid for it, you get it. Yeah, exactly. He says, Mr. White says, you bought it, you paid for it, you get to keep it. Rosacea, exactly. Yay. I tell my husband, I think this is God's punishment for suffering from vanity. This is God's way of saying, this is the struggle you're going to have in life. So let me throw some challenges at you, friend. Great. Fine. It's a first world problem. I know. Okay. So maybe I'll try this new stuff. Let's see if I break out in hives. Maybe it won't be a good commercial for whatever this stuff is, Plexion. Because rosacea makes me really dry and I have to constantly moisturize. So if you have not watched one of these before, it is a little bit of a combination of me ruminating on makeup and vanity stuff and nursing and nurse practitioner stuff. It's a really healthy balance. That kind of feels good. It's a very like thick kind of cream. Feels nice. Fine. Anyways, we got to put a base down here before we get started. Okay, so the two topics, and I combine these into one because they're not super heavy topics, which is great. Last thing we talked about was DIC, which is a little bit heavy. So I'm trying to like balance out a little bit of professional stuff and science stuff. So I'm glad that I have some people on here that can support that are past the school phase and can kind of speak to that there's life on the other side. The first subject was when should you start applying for jobs? And I really wanted to talk about this because right now, a lot of new grad NPs finish school in December. So on a lot of the forums, there's a ton of chit chat about when to apply for jobs. And I think it's fascinating because the dichotomy is massive. I polled one of them that had a lot of feedback, and it was literally 50-50 split down the middle. Some people said apply while you're in school. Some people said don't even think about that, don't stress about it. A bunch of people mentioned that they didn't think they could even apply for a job until they had their license and or their NPI number, that nobody would even look at them. And I don't find this to be true, both in my real life and in my side hustle life. So I mentor NPs and I do a lot of career strategy stuff and interview prep. And so for the past, I guess it's been a year and a half, I've been doing interview prepping. So I can't think of any of these people. I'm really trying to rack my brain. If any of these people were already done with school, and most of them were not. Most of them are in their final semester, but they've already been applying to jobs or they had people approach them about jobs. So I think it's pretty crazy that some students think that they need to wait. And I wanted to talk about why that's a bad idea. That was my experience, and I will not even look at me until after I have my dinner. I just find that so bizarre. I don't know if it's like the region where you're at, or, I mean, you're in a very, very super niche specialty. Mr. Midwife said that for his experience was the same. People wouldn't even entertain his resume or application until he was done. So bizarre. That has been the absolute opposite of everything I've experienced. In fact, all the NPs we've interviewed at the place where I work, and we've interviewed a lot, the new grads are all still in school. And there are very few that are done with school. And honestly, when a resume comes across our desk that's like of a NP that's been out in practice for 6 months, the thought goes through your head like, well, why don't they have a job yet? It's sort of this, and this is not true. Okay, this is very judgy, but I'm gonna put it out there. You know how if you have a friend who's single in their 30s and they're dating people, they're like, oh, all I got is the leftovers that nobody else wanted. It's not true, right? But it's the perception. Like, why? Why haven't they already been snatched up? And it's the same thing on the hiring end of things. Like, especially if you get 10 interviews and 9 of them are still in school and have a good, like, and we're entertaining new grads. Okay, I'm talking about new grads, not new grads to experienced people. It's a different kind of thing. But if we're looking at all new grads, apples to apples, and you've got one who's been out of school for a while and doesn't have a job, it sort of raises some red flags, which may absolutely not have any like merit in anything real or important. It's just a perception. But I also argue that when I did my rotations, I did a lot of rotations. I got 5 verbal job offers at the rotations I did. So when people ask me, when should you start applying and interviewing for jobs, I don't know that I would necessarily start truly interviewing for a job when I started school, but I would definitely start networking and talking about a job from the moment you start, because clinicals are your best source of job acquisition. But not, even if you don't do anything then, certainly your last semester of school, you should already be applying, because most places will hire you on a provisional basis. Like, they know you're getting ready to graduate. They know you got to pass boards. If you don't pass boards, it's a different story. We got to reevaluate. They know that they're going to have to put you through all this, but like particularly at a hospital, okay, hospitals, notoriously that credentialing timeframe is 6 months. Notoriously, they've got to get through all these hoops. So because they want to expedite that, they'll hire you on a contingent basis and help push you through some of those legal things, getting your license in time, applying for your NPI number. My hospital actually paid for my DEA number. I didn't have to do that because they wanted to expedite it. So there's a lot of reasons why I think applying early is favorable, and what I recommend to people who are coming to me. And honestly, when I looked at the comments of people who said that they would not stress about it or would not do it until they were done with school, they were mostly all students. They were currently students. So I don't know if this is what the schools are telling them. I don't know if this is how their region is. But yeah, I kind of lean in that 50-50 camp. Yes, $888 to DEA. Yep. Super duper expensive. And actually my hospital no longer pays for it because I don't need it. I don't write prescriptions, but ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The ways that they try and gauge us as NPs. I don't know how much it is for a physician, but all right, I'm just getting all my stuff out so I can get a move on, because today I really do have to finish this and fly into work. What do I do first? Foundation. Lay the foundation to cover up the red. That's where we start. So that's it. There's really not a lot that I have to say about when to apply for jobs, other than, that's my opinion. And obviously it's an opinion, but that is my thought on it. The other thing I was going to talk about was boards prep. And so the boards prep video I did is one of the very first YouTube videos I ever did. So it is 2.5 years old now, I think. So I'm probably going to go ahead and do another formal one and update it, because while I think the strategy I employed to study is great, obviously, I've interviewed a lot of NPs and a lot of NP students since then on my channel, and I have gotten some phenomenal ideas from people that I'm like, dude, why did I not think of that? Why did that not occur to me when I was in school? So I did a blog post, I think 2 weeks ago, where I laid out like phases and what you do in each phase, based on what I've compiled from my experience and what I compiled from NPs who are going through it right now. Having said all that, if you have not taken boards yet, it is absolutely horrific. If you're a person who has test anxiety, it's legit. And I am going to share with you my absolutely humiliating board study or board examination story, so that you all can be entertained. But also, I challenge you, because if anybody can share a story that is more embarrassing, I don't know what I'll do. Maybe I'll give you like 10,000 life bonus points or something. Maybe I'll give you like a shout out on my next formal video. I don't know. What could I do? What could I do that can entice you to share a story? And the reason I want to entice you is because I really need someone who's going to share something more embarrassing than mine, because it's pretty bad. We have to start with a little background, okay? You have to have the DEA, Mr. Midwife. Is that, because you probably yeah. Okay, obviously, Mr. Midwife is helping mommies, rip their bodies in half and deliver children So he probably sends a lot of people home with Percocet. I really appreciated the Percocet that I got from my midwife when I left the hospital. You know what's interesting? Um, I really didn't have a ton of pain after my first baby. Not even so much after my second, but my gosh, and maybe it's because I'm older. But after the third one, like I just felt like I had that. I don't know what's the word for it. Like afterbirth, like my uterus contracted for days. I felt like it. It was it wasn't horrific. I'm dramatic, okay? Just so you know, I'm dramatic. I'm going to over dramatize everything I say. It wasn't horrific. The delivery was horrific, but the after phase was really not fun. Like not fun. It was like a week that I took narcotics. Maybe I won't repeat that one. If I did not turn on the feedback, the live playback responses, Mr. Midwife has something to hide. Where's Scott at today? Oh, he's busy this week, isn't he? I'd like to hear how his clinicals went. Or he met with his preceptor for the first time, I think on Friday, last week? No, God, that was 2 weeks ago. Because I missed last week because I'm a loser. I had to work days like a loser. Okay, so the first thing about NP boards is this. It is nothing like NCLEX. That's the first and foremost. I knew it wouldn't be. I knew it. Again, that cerebral, you know this in the frontal part of your brain. You're aware of this. You don't fully appreciate the level of this until you actually go through it. But it is 4 hours long. Is it 4.5 hours? I'm pretty sure it's 4 hours long. You only get 4 hours to take 175 questions. He says, yeah, if I have to repair your bottom, you're going to want a narcotic for day or two. Yes. And, you know, I really love the fact that as a man, you can totally put yourself in that shoe, because while I can appreciate some of the challenges that you gentlemen face, I think it's a little bit harder for men to do that. So I think that's amazing. I think I've told you before how much love I have for midwives. My mom was a midwife, and I had midwives for all 3 of my babies. Love, love, love midwives. In fact, when I was in school at Emory, some of our classes, all of the specialties were grouped together, like everybody. And the midwives were the ones that sat on the row behind the acute care people. And there were only like 10 of us. There was like, 75 FNPs and 10 acute carers. And then we had our ER people. There were maybe 15 of those. And then midwives, they were same as us. They maybe had 6 or 7 of them. But they were the coolest ones of all. They would sit behind us and we would just laugh. I think that most people who go to midwifery school have experience at the bed. They've been L&D nurses. They have experience. And that was one of the things that we, kind of bonded over. But yes, love me some midwives. Okay, so back to why you will have anxiety. If you have any kind of anxiety, I don't know anybody who doesn't feel nervous going into their boards exam, but mine was over the top because I'm an anxious person by nature. But also, I tend to over prepare and also over worry. It's impossible for me not to. I remember thinking the same thing when I took NCLEX and the same thing when I took CCRN. I thought, oh my God, I failed. The problem with boards is that it is so many questions and you only have 4 hours to complete it. So the pressure is on to get it done, and you get in like this brain meltdown mode, like hour 2. And then you got 2 more hours to go and you still got to focus. You can't just throw in the towel. So one of the strategies that one of my students shared that is truly the most brilliant thing anybody ever said was plan out at least once a week a marathon study session where you sit down with 0 interruptions for 4 straight hours and do nothing but question after question after question, and don't stop to read the rationales or check your answers. Just plow through 175 questions and give yourself 4 hours to do it with 0 interruptions. And that will kind of help put you in that mimicry stage of pressure of having to think when you're tired. And also it's sort of that like, I have a friend who's into polar plunges. Do y'all do this, like ice baths? I don't get it. I don't understand why people want to do this. I don't like to be cold. Why would I want to put myself in a cold bath? But her thing is always, well, you should challenge yourself to do hard things. Do I need to? Do I really need to? This is one of those situations, which I heard another person illustrate perfectly. And that is, if you can do hard things, even not as hard things as they will be in reality, but if you can do hard things in practice It'll be much, much less difficult to get through when you do it in reality. And I think that's just brilliant. I really do. So it sort of trains your body to get used to this phase of difficult. It's just like training for a marathon, right? I trained for a half marathon when I was young. You run, you have long days. You have one day a week where you run long, and the rest of the days you focus on different strategies. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So that is one thing. But anyways, let me backtrack a little bit. So in regards to the stages of prep, I think that boards prep should start at different levels of intensity at different phases. And I may stress some people out if you are not yet in school, but I bought my boards prep material before I started my program, just because I'm that kind of person. It was mostly just secondhand Barkley CDs. That's it. It was just secondhand CDs. And I listened to the audio when we were driving. It was summer. We were driving down to Destin. And I remember listening to the CDs for a couple of hours and not having a freaking clue what he was saying. I was like, I don't even know what he's saying. And it kind of made me even more stressed for going into school. So it's not for the faint of heart, okay? And I'm not necessarily suggesting that's what you do. But I do think it's important to get your boards prep material before or shortly after you start your program, because you can use that material to study as you're going along in your program. And it may not directly be stuff that's like on your test. This doesn't look right. Something looks wrong. This looks like blush, not bronzer. I always have really interesting makeup days when we do these lives. So if there's anybody that I work with that watches these, let me know when I pass you in the hall. It's kind of still surreal when I meet people who are like, I know you from TikTok or YouTube. I get it a lot more from TikTok because I think TikTok pushes out to local people. So like particularly during COVID, people would just kind of walk up to me like, hey, I know you. This is so interesting. Actually, I was with Molly one time in the dollar store the first time it happened. And this teacher that worked at her school came up and was like, hey, I know you from TikTok. And I was like, hey, I don't know you, but hi. So anyways, we had this really, really sweet exchange. She's a really sweet lady. And afterwards, Molly was like, oh, your first fangirl. That Molly girl is a bundle of fire. She is a Spitfire kid, and she keeps things entertaining, but she is going to call it like she sees it. She does not sugarcoat anything. She keeps it real in our household. Oh, God, she makes me laugh. I don't know where I was headed with that before I started that little tangent. I'm trying to blend a little better. Okay, here's another full disclosure, y'all. Mr. Midwife says, question, I'm on the adult gero primary track. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's me. Hi, it's me. I haven't met you before. I'm glad you're here. On the adult gero primary track, there are 2 boards to choose from. I'm assuming it's the same for acute care. Is one better than the other? Are you talking about like AANC versus AANP, the different certifying bodies? Probably so. I think it's very interesting. Yes. Okay. Are you in a program where you have colleagues that you can talk to? Are you all online, or are there people that you know in your program that talk? Because I'm just going to be honest, I picked mine because that's what everybody else in my group was doing. It was total peer pressure. But we heard a couple people suggest, our teacher suggested, I did ANCC. They suggested that because it tends to be more clinical. I hear this from a lot of people. The ANCC tends to be a little bit more clinical focused. Obviously, you're going to have all the practice specific stuff, which was the most stressful, and probably the stuff I missed the most. And that is the legislature, oh my gosh, all this stuff that to me is just like, does this even matter? But I guess it does. But I wanted less of that and more of the clinical stuff. And that's what I hear about ANCC. ANP, I think, also has more of the regulatory stuff. I'm not actually, I don't know that I've ever talked to anybody who's taken AANP because I'm acute care and that's most of the people that I know. But here's why I advise pick what your friends pick, because the most important thing you can do in your boards prep is have a study group. And you want to be studying the same information that they're studying or preparing for the same test that they're preparing for so that y'all can study together. That's the most important thing. Outside of that, I think it's sort of splitting hairs on which one to choose. You can also go on the forums too and ask around and see what people in your specific track are doing. You're in a very, very like ultra niche track. Adult gero primary care, there were not many of them in my program. And most of them, I'm curious, do you know what you want to do? I'm always curious why people choose the specialties that they do. But that one, a lot of them ended up going to work for like nursing homes. So I think one of them ended up working in a geriatrics like specialty kind of clinic. So I think it's really, really great when people, sorry, I dropped something, when people know what they want to do. Because so many NPs who go back to school don't, and that becomes a real challenge. Okay, let me backtrack just a little bit. Mr. Midwife said I took 10 to 20 questions per day, every day, then did the full Monty a week before, then no studying the day of. I think that's great. He said he passed on the first try and he cried. Dude, when I get to my story, you're gonna laugh because I didn't cry, but it was pretty darn close. That is the best feeling in the world, is it not? And Nicholas Smith. Hey, Nicholas. Thank you so much for your class on interviewing. I have an in-person interview before graduation. I was wondering if you had any tips or steps to take before my interview. The class on interviewing, the digital course, is that what you're talking about? Did you do that? If so, thank you so much for purchasing that. I hope that it really helped you. It's one of my passions because as a nurse, you know, we're just like handed a job. You walk in for an interview and it's like, want to take a tour? Wait, can you start? And then the like trying to interview as an NP was like so overwhelming to me. And my husband handed me this book and taught me these things. And I was like, why were we never taught this? Why are nurse practitioners not taught this? It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, it blows my mind. But then once you figure out how to do it, you can do it so well. You can do it so well. It really can be a very, I don't know why I'm so like fidgety today, lucrative thing. When I interviewed for 2 formal like in-person interviews, and both of them offered me more. I mean, I negotiated, but both of them offered me more because I think I did a great job interviewing. But yes, what was your specific question? I kind of went off on a track there. I have an in-person interview before graduation. I was wondering if you had any tips. Yes. So the thing about it is, so Nicholas wants to know if I have any tips for him before he goes for his interview in person. I have a lot of tips. That's why it's all, so I have a digital course, which is what we're referring to, on how to interview and how to get your first NP job. I break down all the different sections of it. But if there was one thing I could share from that whole, like, I want to say it's 3 hours of video, 19 videos, and a bunch of PDFs. The one probably single most important thing you can do to impress them, it's for an internal medicine primary care position. Congratulations, that's awesome. You know, it's hard for people to get interviews these days. So kudos to you. And again, before graduation. See, you're gonna look so good to them. It's the questions you ask of them. I actually have been in some in real life interviews recently. Okay, let me just leave it there. The most single important thing you can do is ask the right questions. When they say, do you have any questions for us? Your answer should never, never, never be no, or I can't think of any right now, or you've already answered them, or like many places where I've interviewed is like marathon interviews. It's like, could be even like as much as 6 or 8 hours of interviews. So I think as an interviewee, it's different with different groups of people. Your questions do get answered throughout the day, but the people that you're interviewing with at that moment don't know that. And so when I ask the question, do you have any questions? And you say, no, I don't have any. It seems like you're either, you don't want the job, or you're dispassionate, or you're nervous. And that's fine. It doesn't mean you won't get a job offer. You probably still will if you're a good candidate, but this is a way to sell yourself, y'all. My favorite thing to talk about. The 3 best questions you can ask of anyone is in the category of things that will help them determine if you're a good fit for them. Okay. What I mean by that is the opposite is questions that you ask that determine if it's a good fit for you, which is what you think they're asking you, right? They're asking you, do you want to know more about this job and how can we sell this job to you? Which is really what we're offering, right? So I'll hear people ask things like, you know, how many shifts do I have to work a month? Do I have to take call? How many holidays do I have to work? How many patients will I be expected to see a day? How long will onboarding be? And there's a list. I have a free PDF on my website of 52 questions that I think are important for you to determine if it's a good fit for you. And that's super, super, super important. You want to be happy there. But my argument is this. If you flip that switch and ask them questions that help them determine if you're a good fit for them, you're continuing to sell yourself and you look like you have really got your act together. So let me give you the 3 examples. Okay, instead of asking, how many shifts will I have to work this month? Ask this. What are qualities of an NP that succeed in this role? And can you tell me why? Conversely, what are qualities of NPs who do not succeed in this role and why didn't they fit? And my favorite, which is, what are the challenges that your team faces in the next 6 months and what would be my role in tackling them? Because what that tells me as the employer is that you are already picturing yourself in this role. You already want to know what it takes to really succeed and shine and the things you want to avoid and not do for people who didn't and how you're going to contribute. So people who ask those kind of questions, like, heck yeah, I'm going to give them the job. They're already putting themselves there versus the, what am I going to have to do? What can you give me? Which, again, super important. I just argue that in a formal interview, you're going to get more bang for your buck by asking those kind of questions than the ones that are good for you. So the ones that are good for you, you would ask in some of those sub interviews, like the interview with the director or the interview with that's not with the full team, or the interview with the HR people, or the pre-screening interview that you may have had over the phone. Or my favorite way is just get a shadow day. Ask at the end as one of your 3 questions or whatnot, would you consider allowing me to come in for a shadow day? And that way you have 4 hours or something like that to ask all those questions, you know? And then you can really, really see how they work together, what their definition of collaboration is, how much they're going to, how they, you know, the team dynamics that you can't get in an interview. And you can also kind of continue to sell yourself. And some NPs, when I advise this to them, they'll say, well, I'm nervous that what if they won't let me? Okay, if they won't, that's a red flag. That is a red flag, friend. If they say no, that means something's wrong that they don't want you to see. They got some crazy tucked in the pocket for the interview that they're not going to be able to hide in 4 hours. So that's how I like to do it. Or you could, after they've made you an offer and you've got them hooked, then you send follow-up emails, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, whatever those specific questions are. But just continue to sell yourself. So of all the things that I shared in that course, that's my most favorite thing. And I think the most impactful thing, even if you interview badly. Even if you are asked those questions, they ask everybody, tell me about yourself. What's your greatest weakness? And you flop at those. If you give me one of those, even one of those last 3 questions at the end, it tells me so, so much about you. So that's my one takeaway. I said so much, I got dry mouth during that. I get a little passionate. Okay, let me go back because there were a lot of comments here. I'm sorry. Okay, so you were answering my question about what you want to do. Here's my thinking. I'm wanting to do more specialty, not so much primary, so I don't want the initials to be AG, PCNP. I'd rather be AGNP. Is that stupid? No, not at all. I don't think so. I also think when you niche down a lot, your passion shows through more, and people, I don't know, from this end, seeing a lot of students come through, seeing a lot of interviewees come through, when I say, why do you go back to school? I would say probably a good 50% of them can't really tell me why. And that doesn't bode well, because what that tells me is you're trying to get out of something. You're not in it for the real right reasons. Like, I'm not saying you got to know your purpose in life. Like, you don't got to know for sure you want to work with adults and primary care and geriatric. You don't got to know that. But if you do, it speaks more about your willingness to deal with some of the hardships that you are going to face as an NP that I don't think most people realize when they get into this profession. But because you're passionate about it and this is what you want in life, you're gonna power through. And I don't have as much worries that you're gonna be stuck in a toxic workplace or get weeded out because of there are bad things about our profession that I don't think we anticipate. So yes, to answer your question in a short form, yes, I think that's a great idea. I can work specialty outpatient like cardiology. Yep, that's great. Same here as an ACNP, I can do that as well. I just can't do mommies or babies or children. And that's fine with me. That's great. I think that's great. Mr. Midwife is sending you all the love, Nicholas. Are you talking to? Okay, Mr. Midwife is sharing a tip of a shot of something. Looks like some brown amber, maybe whiskey. Is that a tip pre-test or pre-interview? Maybe both. I'm a lightweight, so I don't think that would be a great tip for me. Vodka tells me I can dance, so I don't know that would be good. Great perspective. I love what I do, by the way, Mr. Midwife. Oh, dude, I know you do. I know you do, and I love that to calm the nerves. Except that I'm not sure alcohol really does that for me. Alcohol doesn't necessarily calm me down. Alcohol makes me want to go dancing. That'd be a fun interview. That might not be the one they're looking for. Okay, let me do a little makeup here. What did I do already? I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, come on, Adderall. So I will share with you my anxiety story, and then we can get to a little bit more of the strategy. I don't know why I'm hesitant to share this story. I think because it's a traumatizing experience. Okay, here's the thing. Y'all, I've already said I have $3. Okay, I have $3. Do you see how much hair I have? You probably don't realize how thick it is, but it's super thick. And all three of my girls have the same. Tequila makes my... You are sharing some things, but not sharing some things. We're going to have to meet in person so I can figure out what this is. Tequila makes Mr. Midwife do something. I will tell you another thing. Tequila makes me do something as well, which is why I don't drink it. I've had tequila twice in my life. Neither time was very... I mean, it was interesting for the people around me, I guess. Okay, so my daughters, we have a lot of hair, is the point. You saw Molly. Well, Molly's was pulled back. She didn't show you. I should have had her take it down. Super, ultra, uber thick. And my hair's a little bit straight, but this is not normal. Like if I wash my hair and don't dry it, it is thick and like curly in one spot and straight in another. It's hard to manage. Okay, can I just say hard to manage and long? Okay, and we all have long hair. All this matters. These details matter. So just bear with me, okay? So anyways, I prepped for boards, and I think I did a pretty darn good job prepping, but I was still nervous as hell. 2 weeks before, one of my girls gets lice. Now, if you know a thing about lice, which I didn't before this, I thought you just put this chemical stuff on it like a shower cap and it goes away. No, it doesn't work that way. It might work that way if you're a dude and you have short hair. It doesn't work that way for a girl because you kill them off, but you only kill off the adults. You don't kill off the little larvae or whatever they are. Then the larvae are still in there and then they hatch. And then you got to do the whole thing over again. So the process is about 3 weeks to a month of doing this shampoo stuff and literally just sectioning the hair off and combing it and sectioning it and combing it and sectioning and combing and looking for lice. Okay, I have 3 girls. Did I tell you I have 3 girls with a lot of hair? Do you know how many times I combed through hair? And do you know how, as nurses, we get around people who have bed bugs or lice and you get the heebie-jeebies? Okay, I lived in a world of lice for the 2 weeks preceding my test. Okay, during all that, you know how you're around people who have bed bugs or lice and then all of a sudden you think you have them? And then, itching can be a psychosomatic problem. So you just like itch and you're like, oh my God, I have lice. But you can't tell if you have your own lice because you're just like saying, like, do I have lice? I don't know, right? Right? So, anywho, I'm studying, stressing, itching. Got my hair professionally checked 2 days beforehand because I thought I don't want to deal with this. Well, the anxiety was high, so the itching started happening. And I'm a very expressive person. So that moderator was the most entertaining moderator there probably ever was for a test because this is how I looked when I was taking my question. And every question I got, and I will tell you this, about 50% in my experience of the questions that you get on boards are from out of the blue. They are not from Barkley. They are just pulled out of a hat. That's something you may have seen in your nursing experience 20 years ago, but you don't remember studying as an NP, and you're like, oh God, I have no clue. I ended up getting a lot of trauma questions, and I was like, ugh. So I see a question pop up, and I'm like, okay, how many sides of the gauze do you tape down for a sucking chest wound? I don't know. I guess I'll put patrolling. And so this is my face. I don't know. Do I do this? And then I start getting nervous, and then I start rocking, and then I start itching. And then I'm like, oh God. And then I just hit C and you cringe. And I think I teared up several times because I was convinced that I was failing. So finish the test after that horrifying experience, get out there. Moderator starts laughing. She was like, how'd you do? I was like, I don't know. You tell me. I entertained her. I'm sure she has never had a student like that in the past. And I said, listen, I don't want to talk about the lice that I may or may not have, but if you tell me I didn't pass that test, I'm going to rub my head all over you. She got a chuckle out of that too. Luckily, I did pass. She handed me the paper. She wouldn't tell me, waited like the whole 30 seconds. Let me print this out for you. I was like, oh my God. She hands me the thing. I passed. I fell back on a table. The table fell down. Y'all, seriously. Seriously. It was horrible. And then the post, oh God, just the letdown, all that parasympathetic letdown hit, and I thought I was going to pass out. It was such a dramatic experience that I'm so glad I don't have to do again. And I'm sure that many of you will do just fine. That is how I test, though. So if you test like that, try and mimic that environment in advance. I wish I had done some like 4-hour sessions, because that was the other thing that really, I didn't realize that like hour 2.5, my mind would totally shut down. And then I would get like panicky, and I get panicky, y'all. It's so bad. It was also pre-Adderall days. That may have had a little difference. Had I known, I got diagnosed late in life with ADD, if y'all didn't know. I don't know if I've shared that or not, but now you know. Okay, it is 5:41. I have to leave at 6:15, like on the dot. So let's move on to eyeshadow, which I put, oh, so scattered today. So that was the anxiety that I experienced. I don't think everybody has it that severe, but everybody that I've talked to has some level of that. And then there's the exactly squirrel. And then there's the like, okay, do I go in and brain dump everything on the paper right away? Or do I just start taking questions right away? I don't know. But anyways, I brain dumped. And I, unlike Mr. Midwife, studied all morning leading up to it, which may not have been a good idea, but I was panicky. Here's how I studied. I bought my boards prep stuff secondhand. I think I got it on eBay. I bought like 2-year-old version of the CDs of Barkley, started listening to them before school started, and was like, what the heck is this? And didn't know what it was. But here's why I think it's important. The more you listen to that stuff, the more that starts to sink in, because it's a lot of hours of stuff, and you want to hear it all. And the reason you want to know your boards prep material frontwards and backwards is that, like I said, it's probably only 50% of the test. So you need to know that stuff like really, really well. So the way you do that is repetition. For me, if I read, I'm not going to retain it. I have to read and write. So when I got the book, I would read it, and I would create handwritten flashcards. Or for a little while, I did a phase of Quizlets, which you might go on Quizlet and see. There are some that are preloaded there. But the thing is, you can't vet that stuff on there. You don't know if whoever made those Quizlets is actually right or not. So you got to double check it. But in a pinch, Quizlet could help. But anyways, so start before school starts, and then just passively start listening, like not actively trying to retain it, but just passively start listening to that material. And Barkley, I don't know about the others because, again, that's all I did. But Barkley is broken up into body systems. So every time I drove down to Emory and had a lecture on GI, I would listen to the GI CD. It's an hour long, so I'd listen to it down there. I'd listen to it on the way back. The reason it's helpful is this. Not only for the repetition factor, but also because the boards test on national guidelines. So that's what they're prepping you on. And that's also a lot of what your programs, if it's a good program, should be testing on. So it's going to supplement your learning for your test in your program, number one. It's going to help you on boards. And number three, it's going to help you in real life, because that's what you're going to be practicing, right? So get your boards prep material early. My school has us doing the exam prep content along with our lecture material. Have you heard of this one? You're probably going to tell me what. Oh, Exam Prep Connect is the name of it. I have not heard of that one, but I think it's great that they do. And I've heard a lot of people say that their schools are either paying for or requiring their students. Yes, I have not heard of that one. There are a lot of them out there. If I had to do it over again, I would do Sarah Michelle NP reviews. I don't know if y'all have heard her or not. Particularly for everybody basically who's not acute care. She doesn't have acute care yet. But I like the way that she teaches. I think it doesn't necessarily matter, okay? It doesn't necessarily matter because, again, whatever material you're getting from them, it's only going to be 50% of your test. Bear that in mind so you don't get panicky when you go in there and you realize, I haven't heard of half these questions. The fail rate is about 10%. I found that to be true in real life as well. The person who failed tried again in a month and did just fine. Okay. So failure is not the be all end all, number one. Number two, it's going to be harder than you think. Every single person I went to school with that took that test said it was way harder than they thought, and they still passed. So when you're in the middle of your test, don't let your brain get like my brain and start derailing you, because it will. So know your boards prep stuff, study it as you go along in your program. And then after you graduate, like I spent 6 weeks. It's gonna be different for everybody. I'm slow. I took 6 weeks, and that is all I did. I didn't even work much. I just plowed through the material in 6 weeks. I formed a study group. I know a lot of people, a lot of NPs I tell to do this are like, well, I'm an online program. That's fine. You can find people online. There are online forums that are specifically for people who are studying for boards if there's not something with your school. Try and find someone that you can like message or get to know online. And it's a little bit awkward, I get it, but like set up Zooms, meet with this person, and hold each other accountable. We're going to meet 2 or 3 times a week for 4 to 6 hours, and we're going to quiz each other. We're going to go through it. We're going to study it. It's the best way to learn because it keeps you accountable. It's another person to fact check you. I can't tell you how many things we'd be studying. My partner's name was Lou. She's so sweet. And she'd say, I don't think that's right, Brianna. Like I would have a flashcard I had made and I had the answer on the back. And she'd be like, I don't think that's right. And then we'd go back and we'd look at the material, and then we'd study something online and we'd look through it. And I was like, oh, I totally memorized this wrong. I was wrong. So you really need that person to bounce it off of. It's, I think, very, very important. And the step that a lot of people don't take because they like to study alone. I get it. Our study group started with just me and her, and it ended up being me and her and one other person. It ended up being like 4 or 5 people, which I feel like it's more effective if it's smaller, but you do you. Yeah, so that's after school. So the phases are: before school, you get your material. While you're in school, you listen to it and try and just absorb it passively. You're not really actively engaging in it, but you're passively hearing it over and over again. If I ever have to hear Dr. Barkley talking about genitals in the eyes, I can hear his voice now on the STI section where he's talking about, you must ask them about genitals in the eyes. Find someone who can teach you that's entertaining. You'll remember it. I'll tell you that. As far as the live reviews, so then after graduation is when you really get busy. That's where you're going to find a study partner. You're going to be doing, you're going to probably be splitting your time. When you're with your partner, you're going to be studying the material, flashcards, quizzing each other, talking to each other, asking each other questions. On your downtime, you're going to be doing test banks, and test banks are huge. We already talked a little bit about this, but I really think you need them in order to get used to the process of taking the questions. But once a week, schedule your marathon one. And then the other thing that Nikki told me that is groundbreaking is read every single answer on your from your test bank. Every single one, even the ones you get right, because you want to read the rationales and make sure that you got it right because you understood it and mastered the material, not because you guessed right. I didn't think to do that at all. And what was the other thing she told me? I think that's kind of it. It's just, you just got to focus on it. It's hard. It's a ton of material. But I can tell you based on how I performed and what I heard from my friends who took it, you're going to not know a lot of the answers, and that's okay. You still pass. It's almost like they intentionally make it harder. I don't know why. Why do they make it harder? I don't know. I just realized that I need a little contour under the jowls. I didn't really do any makeup talk today, but that's okay. I don't think any of y'all want to hear that anyways, because my old body. I'm saving up for maybe my 50th birthday party. I'm gonna have a little facelift because, again, vanity. That's probably when the rosacea will really get bad. Y'all will be like, that's what you get for caring. Okay, let's see. Let me go back a little bit. I missed some comments, y'all. Sorry. Last term was comps required. What do you mean? Comps were required. You mean like your exam prep was required? Don't let your mind play tricks on you. It's the correct answer, but why exactly? I'm here for the chest prep and the contouring. Thank you. Thank you. It's me. We're all about the beautification here. Hopefully you saw the initial part where you saw what it looks like underneath this. This is catfishing at its finest. 5:50, doing just great. I'm not thinking I'm gonna drink coffee before work tonight. Last time I worked I worked days last week, and last time I worked a stretch of nights. Do you ever get to that point where you're like so tired that you can't sleep? Like, and then you just want to cry because you're so tired and you're just like a toddler? I think he means you have to pass a comprehensive exam. Yes, yeah. Okay. Oh God, that's awful. Did I have to do that? I don't recall having to do that. I wonder if any of my Emory friends, none of my Emory friends are probably here. I don't remember doing that. But I'll tell you, we had like finals for each class. What we did have to do was submit. You're at UAB. Everybody's at UAB. UAB is the place to be. We did have to submit a scientific article to 3 different journals. And let me tell you, that stressed me out because I don't do scientific writing. I waited way too long. I waited until like the last 6 months of school to even start, and that was a bad mistake. It was horrible. Like, why make me write this? I'm not going into be an MP to write anything. I mean, if I get it if maybe you're going your DMP. Maybe it's just because it's Emory. I don't know. It really irritated me. I dreaded it, and I barely passed it. And of course, the letter that I got, what journal did I send it to? I sent it to 3 journals. The letters were absolutely hysterical. I'm not even sure that here's my thing. I was 38 years old when I went back to school, y'all. I'm old. And the first time I went to school, APA format, you had a little yellow book. I don't know what that thing was called. And it told you exactly what to put where. And then now they have all these like programs for it, but citing things, it stresses me out. I don't want to do that. I just want to write my opinion and put my references at the end. Like, these are all the references I used. I don't want to cite anything. So that was majorly stressful for me. I'd take a comprehensive test any day of the week over writing a freaking exam. Oh gosh, I forgot to do this earlier. I just recently started brushing my. Did you know you can brush your what are these things called? Eyebrows. It helps. Who knew? And then, because maybe we overplucked in the 90s, I have to fill them back in because big eyebrows are the thing now. Although I don't know, people have some really aggressive eyebrows these days, y'all. Like really aggressive eyebrows. Yeah. I was about to share a personal story and I decided maybe I shouldn't. I shouldn't share things about surgeons that I work with. That would probably not be good. If there's anybody on here who works with me, though, you know what surgeon I'm talking about with the eyebrows. Okay, what else? Comps course exam prep required. Yeah, why did Emory not require that? I don't know. We had to do it separately, but we did have to do some of the Barkley DRTs. DRTs. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's a practice test. And let me just tell you, I think the first one I took, I made like a 30 something on it. I was like, oh Lord, this is bad. You have to pay for those though. I think I ended up doing like 3 or 4 of them. I would say they're worth it. But even those, I don't recall being a full 175 questions. So it's not like even like a real supplementation or what am I trying to say? Words are hard today, y'all. And I don't even, today's my first night shift. What? I used a bunch of different test bank books. Mometrics was one I used a lot. They had big books and the questions were really appropriate. I liked how it was set up. I went through a lot of those books. They apparently have some kind of program now. They reached out like a year or 2 ago and asked me to be affiliate, and I just never did it because that's just a lot of work. Not that I don't think they're great, but it's just a lot of work. They have some kind of program where you like this whole website that you log into, and they, I don't know, it's like a whole test experience. So you may check into that. It looked good. They allowed me like backdoor access to it for a little while, and I did look at it, and it looked pretty cool. But I didn't really want to invest a lot of time to figure out what exactly it was in order to affiliate promote it or whatever. But you may look into it. So there you go, Mometrics. There's your free plug. There's some other companies who do them. I think some of them are better than others. I think ultimately it just comes down to like luck of the draw. Like what questions do you get, and is it stuff that you prepared for or not? Good thing is you do it and it's done. And I will tell you, every student that I've had over the past 4 years, they've all passed. Not one has come back and said that they didn't pass on the first try. So you'll be fine. Again, it's only 10% of people that don't. And of those who don't pass, you take it the next time. So just don't stress about it. You got to prep for it, but don't stress about it. Not to the point that you're making the very stuffy moderators laugh at you. Thank God that was our only life experience, was traumatizing. And then we gave lice to everybody. Like my sister-in-law had it. I had to go over to her house because she's non-medical and kind of freaked out. So I had to go over to their house a couple of times. My grandmother, my mother-in-law who watches my kids, and her hair, y'all, this woman, my husband's mom, is 72 years old and does not have any gray hair on her head. I do not understand how she got those genes. She's so lucky. But her hair goes down to her butt. I'm not kidding you. The good thing is it's very fine. But because it was so fine, like when I was combing her hair out, I was like pulling out these long strands of hair, and I just felt horrible. And then I didn't want my kids to ever go to a sleepover ever again. I was like, never again. There's the last one. Okay, so I think we're kind of wrapping things up. I am totally off. My intent with these videos is to have them match up with like what my blogs and my TikToks are doing at the time, but things have been weird for me, obviously, lately. And also I've been, I have a book called The Ultimate HMP Cheat Sheet, and it is like a copy paste of dot phrases for ICU patients. And it's been really, really popular. So I decided to do a second book. So I've been in book writing mode, and I'm like, I don't know, 90% done with that book. But as I've been doing it, the second book is way more, it's just better. It's way better. It's got a lot more in-depth teaching in it, a lot more resources. And so I went back and looked at the first book, and I was like, oh, this is crap. I can't let people have this. So I spent the last 2 weeks like furiously trying to rewrite that book. So I finished the second edition of that book and sent it out to the people who had purchased it. And so I haven't done any TikToks. I did do blogs, but I haven't been following their blogs because I missed half my minis. So L'Oreal, yeah. Do I have anything L'Oreal? I might. Maybelline is, I use a lot of Maybelline on my concealer. So having said all that, what did I write about this week? This week was a clinical blog. I wrote about DKA versus HHS, the age-old debate. Is it DKA or is it HHS? Because quite often it looks like both. As a critical care provider, I can't tell you how many times I get called from the ED to admit a patient with DKA because the hospital isn't comfortable taking him. So, and then I look at things and I'm like, well, is it DKA or is it HHS? So I thought I can't be the only one who gets confused by this. So that's why I did that one. So I guess next week is going to be a professional topic, and I have no idea what I'm going to write about. So do y'all have any requests? Anything you want to know? Nicholas or it's me, anything in regards to being an NP student or post NP school or graduation or boards or job acquisition? Any clinical things y'all want to talk about? That would be 2 weeks from now. I was thinking I would do, what was it I was thinking about just the other day? Okay, let me give you a little makeup tip because clearly I'm a beauty influencer. I like to watch, TikTok knows I like to watch middle-aged ladies put on makeup because that's all I get. But I saw one the other day, and she was talking about putting lip liner just in the middle, like not taking it all the way to the edge. And it's life-changing because it doesn't like thin out the lips. So there you go. There's your makeup to her today. Although that makeup looks like crap. What is? Okay. All right. So 6 o'clock on the dot. What the heck? Brilliant timing. This is why my husband always says, did you set a timer for whatever's in the oven? No, because I smell it when it's done. The nose knows until it doesn't and you burn it. Actually, it knows unless you walk away and start doing something else because ADD told you needed to accomplish something else. I need to wash my hands. Hold on. All right. Well, I got nothing else. Let me know. Send me a message if you have some thoughts on what you want me to talk about. Otherwise, I'm going to come up with something brilliant, absolutely brilliant the next time frame. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. And again, sorry about all the weirdness. Next week, I will be back to 3 p.m. Yes, I have an appointment Molly's got to be at 12:30, but I should be home by 3. Probably be home by 3. Thanks for joining, everybody. It's always so good to catch up with y'all. I really enjoy these weekly things. Even if I'm not here, I'm really missing it because it's fun.